All fans of our sports, my decision is based on the current understanding of how COVID-19 is progressing in the United States. This decision is in the best interest of public health, including that of coaches, administrators, fans, and most importantly, our student athletes. Here's reaction from around college basketball.
This is a scary time period, but I don't want to try to get in and evaluate what should or should be done with the college basketball. Again, we have very intelligent people that'll make the right decision.
This is unbelievable, interesting times as we move forward. But again, I go back, kids they love to play and they love to compete. And I think they'll really play their backsides off, even though it'll be echoing in there tomorrow.
I think Turner Sports and CBS got to close down March Madness, man, because even if there's no fans, you can't have these players breathing on each other for 2 weeks. Even if they're at a hotel, they're going to be in different cities around the country. And I hate to say it, I think we're going to have to shut down March Madness until we know more.
Kids love to play, but the health should be paramount. We now welcome in college basketball analyst Sean Farnham. Sean, thank you so much for being with us.
No problem.
What's your take on the NCAA's decision?
I said this last night. Being on air, it was interesting. At 6 p.m. Sports Center last night, we're talking about maybe moving the Final Four to smaller venues. And by the time Scott Van Pelt was on and the NBA had suspended season, the tone had completely shifted. And my perspective on it is very simple. It's very clear that they should suspend the NCAA tournament, that these conference games that are still slated to take place here at noon should not be played. There's not enough information that we know right now. Now, I don't know the information, and I'm fairly confident there's a lot of other people that don't know the information as well. And with that, I would rather err on the side of protecting these student athletes. Look, if the NABC is going to be canceling their coaching convention at the Final Four, if schools are canceling classes, how can we justify putting these student athletes out on the floor and playing the game of basketball even in empty arenas? I just don't understand it.
Sean, I listen, I'm not going to debate with you because, first of all, I agree with you 1,000%. But I really, really need your help here because you've been associated with college basketball for a long time. You're an incredibly respected voice. Could you explain to me what you just said, why the NCAA can't seem to comprehend that? Because I'm at a loss. I don't understand it.
I don't, and you know, I've got texts from coaches even in the last 24 hours. They're like, Sean, but you know, these kids, this is their chance, and this is what they've been waiting for. And I understand that. I understand that, like a program like Rutgers hasn't been in the NCAA tournament since 1991, or that we're looking at Dayton and San Diego State as potential national champions in college basketball. I understand all of that, but at some point in time, and I played in the tournament 4 times. It's the best event. I love this month. But for nobody in Indianapolis right now, as far as we know, that they've had a conversation with all the conference commissioners and try to get on the same page and be united here on this front and understand the situation that we're dealing with goes well beyond the realm of college basketball. And well, I don't understand.
Sean, what level of culpability, and I'm certainly, working here for ESPN, I want to be careful. I'm not trying to call out CBS or anybody else, but obviously the TV money has a lot to do with the NCAA's unwillingness to just completely suspend March Madness, knowing that there's the specter there that you could push it back. Have the networks given any kind of indication that they could potentially be receptive to moving March Madness to May or something like that if necessary? Or is this one of those situations where the NCAA is looking at it and saying, okay, either we do March Madness or we're not going to be able to do it at all because the networks are not going to push it back? Do you know anything about that at all?
Stephen A., I've got no knowledge on that. And I don't want to speculate, and I think it'd be reckless if I did, just based on the fact that this is evolving so quickly. I think there's going to still be changes today. I really do. Because I think as you heard Charles talk earlier this morning on Get Up, I heard you, Stephen A., talk on the show, Jay Will passionately speaking about it, Brian Windhorst. I've been talking about this since last night. Common sense is that these games are unnecessary and don't need to be played right now. Now, if you want to hold the NCAA tournament and say, okay, look, we're gonna wait until April, and if we can push it back and play in smaller venues at that point in time, then that's something that we're going to look into. That's fine. I'd be all in favor of that. I'm not for necessarily just saying, hey, we don't need a national champion this year in college basketball, but I do think we need to be vigilant. And I think as adults, and people that are, for all of us that are so passionate about it, and in particular in my line of work where this is our business. This is the time of year we've built up all the way from November all the way through here to celebrate this month and celebrate the accomplishments of these student athletes. I think there's reason right now that a pause makes sense.
Sean, I'm struck by something that Emmert said. This decision is in the best interest of the public health, including that of coaches, administrators, fans, and most importantly, our student athletes. Well, actually, the decision that would be in the best interest, truly, of all those things is to postpone, at least, the tournament. But he kind of reflexively says in the best interest of our student athletes. And I understand the last thing you want to do is cancel games. First, do it without fans. Maybe, and by the way, we all come to work here. Stephen A. and Molly and I are sitting close to each other. There are several dozen people here working at the seaport in New York, but we are not, as Charles Barkley said, sweating on each other and, bodying up against each other the way basketball players would do. And by the way, it remains to be seen how much longer television networks even operate in this way and don't go to further isolating people from each other because social distancing seems to work. What do you take away from, most importantly, our student athletes? What could he mean by that?
The only thing I can guess is I think they're taking an incremental approach to this, and I don't think that the announcement. And again, that statement I think is already outdated, right? Like when that statement was made yesterday afternoon or late afternoon yesterday, it was like, okay, this is making sense. This is trying to be proactive. But as the information came out about Rudy Gobert last night in the NBA, and you start to think to yourself, are we naive to the point where we believe that there is not a single player that is currently participating in a conference tournament that may or may not actually have the coronavirus, or that they may have been in contact, or the coaches, or the administration, or the staff? There is no true answer to that because not everybody's been tested. And that's the slippery slope that we're dealing with. And again, I'm not a fear-based person. Throughout this whole entire news cycle, as this thing has been developing, I've been kind of like a wait-and-see approach. My wait-and-see approach yesterday afternoon changed to let's take a pause. It's no longer just a wait and see how this continues to play out. As the World Health Organization made its announcement, again, the NABC, the National Association of Basketball Coaches, has made the determination that it is not right for their coaches to come to the Final Four venue, whatever that Final Four venue ends up being, to hold their national convention. Yet, we're putting student athletes out on the floor. College campuses around the country are canceling classes. There are football programs such as Baylor and Virginia that have said, hey, we're not having any football work right now. Our football facilities are shut down. Yet basketball teams are currently playing from both those two universities, one in Greensboro and one in Kansas City, Missouri. That causes me to raise my hand and say something doesn't seem right now.
Yeah, Sean, what bothers me about the statement is when he says most importantly our student athletes. In fact, it would either seem least importantly the student athletes because they're the ones now at risk. The odds seem to me, given all the information we have and the number of players there, that it will turn out that someone has it and then it will spread that way.
Well,
so,
Max, your point is spot on. Okay, so the student athletes that are on the floor, in all likelihood, are not going to contract the coronavirus based on the people that are sitting in the stands. Right. They're more likely to contract it from the officials, from the players that they're playing against, from their coaches, from their team managers to the director of basketball operations, the people that they're in contact with in close proximity. And in particular, in the locker room, on the buses, at pregame meals, at all of those things, court. It's much more likely.
Yeah, on the court, bodying people. Like
it's much more likely than that of the fans sitting in the seats. The idea of taking the fans out of the equation protects the fans, and that is an important aspect as well. And we shouldn't necessarily completely minimize that. But our student athlete part. I think you're spot on. The student-athlete part needs to be taken into account, and today. And I said this last night, and I stand by it. Games should not be played today. The conference tournaments should be over. The tournament should be, at the very least, suspended. And if they can move it a month or 2 months away and have May Madness or whatever, I think Stephen A. said that on Get Up, fine. Let's approach it that way. But this business as usual mentality, I don't think is working right now for anybody with common sense.
What strikes me about it is not only that, like it's least importantly student athletes, but really the issue here is the public health. It's not that any one person contracts it. It's that it spreads too rapidly and that overtaxes the healthcare system. So really what he's saying here, it seems to me, is most importantly our bottom line, but then dressing it up as though it's most importantly the student athletes, maybe vaguely because they want to play in the tournament. It's important to them. And the hypocrisy is what this smacks of to me.
Let me interject here before Sean chimes in. You're absolutely right, Max. It reeks of hypocrisy. There's no question about it. And it's clearly about the money. I think we can accuse the NCAA and Mark Emmert based on, not even based on that statement, just based on his inaction at this particular moment in time. And the reason I feel so strongly about that, Sean, is because I think that the NBA gave them a huge assist last night had they taken it. If you want to prioritize March Madness, you basically want to get it over with before the NBA playoffs begin. But by the season being suspended, essentially the NBA is pushing its season back, which means you have the latitude or the leverage to push your season back, assuming the networks are cooperative with you. So to me, the fact that the NCAA has not explored that, at least as of yet, to me, they're a bit, they're a bit late to the party, and it's a damn shame. And I'm sorry for using that particular phraseology, but it's just ridiculous that they've done this.
Well, let's be honest. You think for 1 second CBS, Turner, True TV, TNT isn't going to recognize that the ratings boom will still be there if they want to have a tournament a month from now? Of course would be. Would it outrate the daily programs that they normally have during those time slots? Of course it would. So that option is there. I hope that it's being explored. I hope that there's a lot of conversations right now that we're not privy to and that we're going to find out in the next 24 hours that will all of a sudden help make sense of this. In the meantime, I will go back. Games should not be being played today, period. There's no use to playing the games right now. The tournament field is almost completely set. If you ask the tournament selection committee, I bet they're looking at maybe 1 or 2 teams that would make a difference. And it's, team number 68, 67 that they're looking at. And it's just not worth the risk that we're putting these student athletes in.
Yep, we all echo that sentiment in unison. Sean, thank you so much for being with us. So appreciate it.
No worries.
The NBA has been suspended due to concerns over the coronavirus. Oh, we're actually not going to go to commercial break. I'm hearing that we have some breaking news.
Yes, we do.
Yep. Okay, we're just hearing that Woj just tweeted that Donovan Mitchell from the Jazz has tested positive for the coronavirus. I appreciate for the delay on that. We will get back to that in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break and we'll have reaction. Adrian Wojnarowski will be with us with the latest on that news.